There are moments in history that do not come with warning signs or press releases. They do not unfold on grand stages or under the weight of prepared speeches. Instead, they crash through the noise, uninvited and unfiltered, forcing the world to look, to listen, and sometimes to weep. One such moment unfolded on an otherwise ordinary evening in New York City, in a setting not known for scandal or drama, but for celebration and wealth. A ballroom cloaked in gold, filled with the most powerful and well-dressed names in America. It was supposed to be a night of triumph. Donald J. Trump, days away from reclaiming the presidency in January 2025, was being honored by donors, loyalists, and political allies. The chandeliers glistened like frozen fireworks, laughter flowed as freely as the champagne, and the air was thick with ego and expectation. No protest signs, no flashing cameras, just power congratulating itself. And then, in the eye of that storm, stood a little girl. She didn't come with an entourage. She wasn't a celebrity's daughter or a media plant. She was just a child. But when she opened her mouth, the entire illusion cracked. A moment later, it shattered. "Do you know you are a bad man?" she asked, her voice light but unwavering, her eyes fixed directly on the man about to become president again. The room stopped breathing. A few in the crowd chuckled nervously, assuming it was some quirky child's joke. Others turned their heads, curious but dismissive. But Donald Trump leaned forward, his smirk half curious, half condescending. "Why do you say that, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice thick with amusement, perhaps expecting an innocent answer. Maybe something about cartoons or candy or TikTok. But what came next would not only wipe the smirk from his face, it would ignite a firestorm that scorched across every state in America. "Because you robbed my dad and made him poor," she said. "He liked you. He believed in you." Before we go any further, if this story already has your pulse rising and your heart stirring, do something that matters. Subscribe to this channel right now. We bring you the stories buried beneath headlines, the truths others are paid to silence, and voices like Ava's that refuse to be ignored. Be part of this movement. Hit subscribe. Now back to that golden ballroom, where silence had fallen like a bomb had dropped. People fidgeted. A few guests looked to security, unsure whether to step in. But even the guards were frozen, captivated not by threat, but by truth. Because the girl, Ava McClain, wasn't finished. "You told people to buy TrumpCoin," she continued. "My dad did. He gave you all our savings. And then you took it all away." Gasps slipped through lips like wind through broken windows. TrumpCoin. The very name that had become a whisper of scandal, the shadow looming over Trump's resurgence, had now been flung into the spotlight, not by a journalist, not by a rival candidate, but by a child. The scandal had been boiling beneath the surface for weeks, but no one had dared speak it aloud in such a setting. Not until now. In early January 2025, Donald Trump, no stranger to controversy, marketing, or media manipulation, had begun promoting a cryptocurrency dubbed TrumpCoin. The campaign was slick, gleaming videos, cryptic tweets promising economic rebirth, and waves of truth social posts plastered with slogans like "Invest in Patriotism," "Make your wallet great again," and "The people's coin has arrived." It wasn't officially tied to his campaign, a legal sleight of hand that allowed for deniability. But make no mistake, it had his name, his image, and most importantly, his promise. His most loyal followers, truck drivers, veterans, retirees, single mothers, saw it not just as a financial investment, but a vote of faith. They believed, as Jeremy McClain did, that TrumpCoin was more than money. It was a revolution. Jeremy McClain was a trucker from Ohio. He didn't come from generational wealth. He didn't dabble in stocks or follow crypto trends. But he had faith in his country, in his president, and in the man who had promised to give the forgotten a voice. So Jeremy emptied his savings, sold off the stocks he had been holding for years, even borrowed money from his aging parents. And he bought TrumpCoin. He wasn't alone. Tens of thousands did the same. And then the trap closed. Within days of its peak valuation, over $2.1 billion in market cap, something shifted. Big wallets started selling off massive amounts. The price dipped. Then it nosedived. Within a week, it was nearly worthless. Developers went silent. Support forums vanished. Trump stopped tweeting about it. And Jeremy McClain? He was left holding nothing but a broken dream. He cried in the kitchen, Ava said that night. He told my mom he was stupid. He said he failed us. But he's not stupid. He just believed in someone who lied. Trump, caught in the headlights of a truth he couldn't dodge, stood in silence. No teleprompter. No comeback. No insult. Just silence. And then came the blow that would echo across the globe. Why do the rich rob the poor and get away with it? 16 words. One truth. And a nation unraveled. If you're still with us, now's the time. Subscribe to this channel. We are building something here. Not just a platform for stories, but a place where truth, no matter how inconvenient, is sacred. That moment, now immortalized in slow-motion clips, reaction reels, and late-night monologues, exploded across the internet. Hashtag Ava's question began trending globally. Politicians scrambled. Financial analysts dissected. And millions of ordinary people, the same ones who had invested in TrumpCoin, began to speak. And then, like sparks catching dry brush, something unexpected happened. Insiders started talking. Within 48 hours of Ava's question, whistleblowers began leaking documents, transaction histories, encrypted chats, internal memos. Blockchain sleuths traced massive withdrawals from TrumpCoin wallets directly to shell companies. Some of those companies? Allegedly tied to super PACs and crypto firms with known affiliations to Trump's inner circle. It was, by every legal and ethical definition, a pump and dump scheme. The victims? The very people who believed in the promise. Retirees who sold their pensions. Parents who pulled college funds. Young veterans who saw TrumpCoin as a second chance. Their stories flooded the internet. They posted video confessions, bankruptcy notices, eviction letters. One man in Texas live-streamed as he lost his family home. A woman in Florida showed the foreclosure notice taped to her door. But through it all, Ava remained a calm center in the storm. She went on podcasts, sat down with journalists, not because she wanted fame, but because she knew she had to. In one heart-wrenching interview, she said, "If I didn't say anything, maybe nobody would. I think the people who lie should have to say sorry, and they should give the money back." The simplicity of her words carried more weight than any prosecutor's argument or senator's speech. She wasn't coached. She wasn't spinning. She was just telling the truth. Jeremy McClain, still reeling from the financial loss, said he wished he could have shielded his daughter from the spotlight, from the pain, from the pressure of being the one who spoke up. "But I'm proud," he said, "because she didn't lie. And that's more than I can say for the man who took everything from us." If this story has moved you, if it stirred something inside you that refuses to go back to sleep, then help us amplify it. Like this video. Comment below. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the moment. This isn't just about a coin. It's about power without consequence. About manipulation wearing a red hat and smiling for the cameras. About how easily trust can be weaponized against the very people who offer it. And it's about Ava, a child with no title, no microphone, no political leverage, who had the courage to speak the truth. The Trump campaign fired back, of course. Spokespeople called it a politically orchestrated ambush. They claimed Ava was being used by leftist media, that the story was overblown. But the fire had already spread. Some of Trump's own base began asking questions. Forums that once praised TrumpCoin began to turn. Influencers who had promoted the coin started deleting posts. Even a few die-hard supporters posted apologies to Ava. And Trump? He never responded. Not once. No Truth Social post. No press conference. No lawsuit. Just silence. And maybe that silence was the loudest confession of all. So what happens next? Maybe criminal investigations. Maybe class action lawsuits that finally claw back what was stolen. Maybe more whistleblowers. Maybe new laws to prevent political figures from peddling unregulated currencies to desperate voters. But more importantly, maybe something else happens. Maybe Ava sparks a movement, not just against crypto fraud, but against a system that allows the powerful to reinvent themselves again and again, no matter how many they crush on the way up. Maybe her voice inspires others to speak. Maybe children around the world learn that truth doesn't require permission, only courage. And maybe you, sitting wherever you are part of that change. Because this isn't just Ava's story. It's America's. It's a story of a nation fooled, hurt, and lied to. And one little girl brave enough to ask the question everyone else was too afraid to voice. So if this story matters to you, don't just scroll away. Subscribe. We don't chase algorithms. We chase truth. We don't protect billionaires. We protect people like Ava. And we promise, as long as stories like this exist, we'll be here to tell them. Because in the end, it's not always the loudest voices that shape history. It's the bravest. Like Ava's.